House Bureau Chief Philip Rucker, as always. Phil, we very much appreciate your time and your insight.
Thank you.
Well, Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman made his second court appearance since being extradited to the United States. Earlier today, he was transferred via massive security detail from a Manhattan jail to a courthouse in Brooklyn. He faces a mandatory life sentence for a list of charges, including money laundering and conspiring to murder his enemies. CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid was in the courthouse there as Guzman did make his appearance. Joins us now from Brooklyn. And Paula, what can you tell us about the appearance today?
Well, Josh, he came into the courtroom escorted by 6 U.S. Marshals. That's the most I've ever seen. There were an additional 5 by the door. Of course, we all know the reasons for all of these additional security precautions. When he came into the courtroom, he looked curious. He was intently looking around at his surroundings, the gallery, and he was very excited to see his young wife and some other associates who were in the courtroom there. Now, he's been held in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day and has not had access to his family or some of his legal team. So he was very excited to see them, and they tell us that they are trying to get more access so that they can go visit him in jail.
Now, you mentioned the remarkable security concerns, certainly understandable as he makes a personal appearance, and yet it was not an appearance that was necessarily required. This could have been done via video link. Why was it not?
Well, he wanted to be here. I mean, you can imagine if you're in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day and you are looking at very likely a life sentence in a maximum security prison, these are pretty much his last field trips. So even though he wasn't particularly interested in the proceedings themselves, he wanted to get out. He wanted to be there. And the government said that, why waste the taxpayer money? Just have him appear via video conference. But his lawyers argued, no, he was well behaved as arraignment. Let him come to this one too. And they did. So he was here and he was well behaved.
His lawyers, you mentioned them, federal public defender, something that I know the judge in this case has taken issue with. But how do they now mount a defense considering the Everest of information, of evidence that he faces?
That's a great way to describe it. Well, the first question is, why is he entitled to a federal public defender? The man is a billionaire. He's made billions of dollars in the drug trade over a career spanning 3 decades. So the first question is going to be who represents him, whether or not he'll get a private attorney or he'll actually have this federal public defender. Whoever has the task of representing him, their biggest challenge will just be ensuring that he gets due process, that he is the most aggressive representation possible, because as you noted, this is pretty much a slam dunk case.
I've mentioned previously, death penalty not on the table here. That will come as a big surprise to many people. Why not?
As part of the extradition treaty that we have with Mexico, in order to get anyone extradited here, including the world's most wanted man, they had to waive the death penalty. They had to give assurances to Mexico that he would not face a capital sentence. So the most that he is up for here is a life sentence. It is likely that he will be convicted. If anything goes wrong in this trial here, though, in Brooklyn, Josh, he faces trials in at least 6 other cities, which will remain open until he is successfully convicted and put in a maximum security prison somewhere in the U.S.
Paula, at the risk of perhaps taking you a bit far afield from your purview, it need to be noted here that this extradition happened on the last day of the Obama administration. Just how much were politics in play here?
That's a great question. So there's 2 theories about why he was extradited on the eve of the inauguration. The first is that Mexico perhaps wanted to deny the Trump administration the victory, to be able to say that it was them who were actually able to get this drug lord across the border to a country where he will successfully be detained and will successfully be tried. Now, the other theory is that perhaps Mexico wanted to do this extradition when the world's attention was elsewhere, and so not to call too much attention to the fact that they were not able to successfully detain or try their most wanted man.
One wonders if perhaps those aren't actually mutual.